A single gunshot cracked through a Florida morning, and in the time it took that echo to die in the pines, an Army column stopped being a unit and became something far more fragile, scattered men trying to understand what world they had just walked into. Because an army can survive hunger. It can survive heat. It can survive bad roads, bad luck, and bad weather. What it cannot survive, especially in the first seconds, is not knowing what is happening. This series is about battles lost to chaos, not genius maneuvers, not elegant tactics. Chaos, panic, broken communication, exhaustion, human error. Because when information collapses, discipline can collapse right behind it. And if this is your kind of history, the kind where one mistake turns into a chain reaction, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what disaster or battlefield collapse you want covered next. Because this story, it starts with one shot, and it ends with an army erased. Florida, 1835. This is not a clean battlefield. This is heat, insects, saw palmetto, tall pines, and roads that barely deserve to be called roads. It is frontier war, the kind where danger does not line up in formation and wait to be identified. For years, tension has been building between the United States and the Seminoles. Treaties have failed. Removal pressure is rising. By late 1835, everybody knows violence is coming. They just do not know where it will break first. Then Major Francis Dade is ordered to move a detachment north from Fort Brooke toward Fort King. More than 100 men, regulars, supplies, a small cannon. Not a massive force, but enough to feel solid on paper. And that is the trap. On paper, this looks like a routine reinforcement march through difficult country. In reality, it is a moving target. At first, the soldiers behave like men who understand the danger. They send out flankers. They watch the brush. They move with caution. They know an ambush is possible. But then nothing happens. One day passes, then another. No attack, no shots, no sign of the enemy. And silence starts doing what bullets have not done yet. It starts changing behavior. Because silence teaches the wrong lesson. It whispers that maybe the threat is somewhere else. Maybe the enemy will not strike. Maybe the worst part of the road is already behind them. That is how people get vulnerable in war. Not always through stupidity, but through pattern recognition. When nothing happens long enough, the mind starts trusting nothing. So the column tightens. Flankers are drawn in. The march becomes faster and easier to manage. The terrain feels more open now, less claustrophobic, more pine than brush, safer, at least to tired eyes. But Florida does not need mountains or ravines to hide an ambush. It just needs palmetto at waist height, pine trunks at regular intervals, and men who know exactly how to disappear between them. The Seminoles have been watching the whole time. They are not just picking a place to fire. They are picking a moment when caution softens, when routine takes over, when the column starts to feel safe enough to become predictable. Then comes December 28, 1835, morning. The soldiers are marching in routine, boots in sand, leather creaking, metal shifting. Low conversation. The cannon rolling behind them like reassurance on wheels. And then it happens. One shot. Maybe it is a signal shot. Maybe later stories assigned it to a particular leader. The exact finger on the trigger matters less than what follows, because that first shot is not the real blow. The real blow is the volley. Suddenly the trees explode with fire. Muzzle flashes rip through the brush. Smoke punches outward from hidden positions. Officers drop early. Men in the line stagger, turn, freeze, fall. Before most of the column even understands the shape of the attack, command is already breaking apart. And that is the disaster. Not just casualties, not just surprise, but a collapse of understanding. The men who are supposed to steady the moment are among the first hit. Orders do not travel cleanly. The road is narrow. Bodies and equipment block movement. Some soldiers fire at brush because they see motion. Some try to form a line. Others dive for cover. Voices overlap, contradict, disappear in smoke and gunfire. That is what chaos looks like in war. Not random screaming. 100 men solving different problems at the same time because no one can see the whole one anymore. And then the black powder smoke thickens. That matters more than people think. It does not just make the scene dramatic, it steals clarity, it erases targets. It turns a living landscape into a wall of uncertain shapes. The Seminoles do not need to stand in the open. They fire from cover, from angles, from positions the Americans cannot clearly identify. Return fire becomes guesswork, and once guesswork takes over, panic is right behind it. Where are they? How many are there? Which direction matters most? Who is giving orders? Are we surrounded? Those questions arrive faster than answers do. Some men do exactly what training demands. They find trees, they reload, they return fire. Others try to bring the cannon into action because artillery feels like certainty, something heavy and real in the middle of confusion. But even that fails. A cannon needs time, it needs a crew, it needs exposure, and an ambush is designed to deny all three. If the enemy can keep hitting the men who serve it, that cannon stops being an advantage and starts becoming dead weight. So the survivors do the next logical thing. They build a boundary. Logs, deadfall, whatever can be dragged into place. Anything that turns open collapse into a rough defensive pocket. In the middle of a road, march turned nightmare. They try to create structure from debris, and for a while, it works. Not enough to win, enough to delay the end. Enough to say, here is where we stand, here is where we fight, here is the last shape of the unit. But the deeper problem never leaves. They still do not have a clear picture of the enemy. They are still reacting, not controlling. The Seminoles do not need a dramatic charge. They can tighten the ring, shift positions, keep pressure on, and let confusion do the rest. That is the brutal part of this story. Courage is still, but the deeper lesson is not just that the enemy fired well. It is that the column system failed faster than the men inside it could recover. The first seconds took visibility. The first volley took leaders. The smoke took identification. The road took maneuver, and panic took whatever shared reality remained. That is how one gunshot destroys an army, not by killing everyone itself, but by flipping the system from organized movement into fragmented survival. And once that switch flips, the enemy is no longer fighting a unit. They are hunting disconnected men. So the lesson is not, never be ambushed. That is useless. The lesson is harsher. Security cannot relax just because silence lasts. Command must survive first contact. Communication must work under shock, not just in calm. And if your unit depends on a few men staying alive to remain coherent, then your unit is not strong. It is brittle. This was part 8 of Battles Lost to Chaos, a single gunshot that destroyed an army. A story where the decisive weapon was not only a rifle in the trees, but the collapse of understanding in the first seconds after it fired. Because in war, the most dangerous enemy is not always the force in front of you. Sometimes it is the moment your own side stops sharing the same reality.